Opening statement. Okay. Just excited that, we're talking baseball in October, and we've got a great week ahead between the Bananas game and Halloween batting practice for the kids on Friday, and then the Alabama game and the FanFest on Saturday, and then the Tyler Corbett golf fundraiser on Sunday. I don't know if, from a baseball standpoint, if we could have a better week of events planned for so many cool things, whether it puts a spotlight on our players or giving back to the community or getting to play an SEC opponent or getting to raise money for a former Clemson baseball player in need. So it's just a lot of really good things happening this week, and I know our staff, our players, everyone, Clemson baseball fans alike, just thrilled to be a part of it, and we got a lot of stuff on the docket.
If you call it a scrimmage, but when you look across the way and see the A on the caps, the juice will be flowing. Is that good to get that kind of competition at this time of year?
I think so. I mean, I'm not a big fan of playing games in the fall. I think our exhibition games should be when most sports have exhibition games, which is right before the season starts. Like, I would love to see our sport adopt that model and actually play exhibition games, the week leading up to the season. But, we have our model, which is we get a couple of games in the fall. And so if you're going to play a game, you might as well play quality competition. And, Alabama is as much of a contender as anybody, and they got a great team. They got great coaching staff. They've got one of the best players in all of college baseball, and Justin LeBron. So it'll be a great test, great matchup. Now we're not Aiden Canuck's not pitching. Like, we're not going into it, thinking we're going to have a starter go 6 innings. I mean, it'll be, probably one pitcher will throw 1 inning for 12 straight innings, and we'll script out the gameplay in terms of who goes in and the substitutions. So it's not like a typical game, but in terms of the quality of the competition, yeah, it'll be really good.
Haven't been over there. It seems like you've got some pretty good freshman arms on that roster. Who's standing out to you?
Yeah, the arm talent is good in this freshman group. I mean, if you're just basing it off of arm strength, there's some high numbers velocity-wise on the board. Now, that's just one part of pitching, right? Strikes is a big part of it, and movement is a big part of it. But in terms of just being able to throw the ball hard, we've seen some pretty big numbers on the board. And instead of, evaluating our players based on stats and, with our scrimmages, we've put the target more this fall on player development. And if we're going to evaluate, let's evaluate on how much progress they made from testing and getting baseline evaluations with our Maven lab that we have now, with all the KPI data we have through Trackman, and just more charting their growth and development objectively through data. That's been really interesting, and it's, I think, a more clear, true measurement of progress versus what are the stats in the few inter-squad games that we've had. But we have seen some big numbers, but more importantly than big numbers, guys improving their metrics and improving their, whether it's velocity or command or whatever we're testing. That's where we've seen some pretty good growth.
How would you describe the identity of this year's team?
To be determined. Don't know. Like, our identity will be revealed through adversity in the season. In the fall, everybody plays. We're hitting 10, 11 guys per game and 2 teams going at it. So, and then we got to cut that down to 9 in the season, and it's really got to create some roles where a lot of guys are playing, but a lot of guys also aren't. And we'll see how we handle that. And then we'll also see how we handle when adversity does hit, and how we can bounce back from that. And then we'll see how we handle success as well. And ultimately, our identity will be revealed, especially as we navigate our way through the postseason, because we're at the point now in our program where that's what is going to determine the success of this program, is how far we go in June.
You go back 5 or 6 years ago, and the season ended, and you had to kind of worry about the guys that we recruited. Are they going to go in the MLB draft? Will they sign? Can we get them on practice? Now the season ends, and you've got portal, and I have to go out and recruit guys, and I have to worry about the guys I recruited out of the portal going to be, in the draft. How has that changed for you? And is that Those 2 months, is that maybe the craziest time of the year for you?
The summer is definitely the busiest time. You've got portal combat going on over here, and then you have your normal recruiting cycle where you're still recruiting, all the high school kids, but then, also having a lot of conversations with your own team, making sure we're retaining the players we need to retain. There's obviously happiness and playing time go hand in hand in today's world in all sports, and so there's always going to be a contingent of people that are going to want to talk about their future and what it looks like. Otherwise, they would naturally look elsewhere. So you have that whole dynamic over here, and then you still have to recruit the sophomores, juniors, and seniors of high school while balancing the MLB draft that's looming a month later. So yeah, it's a lot of balls in the air for sure. But it's the way the landscape has changed, and you just have to adapt to it and try to even be aggressive inside of it so you can stay in front of and ahead of anything that pops up.
So when that dust all settled, you knew who was going to be here.
Yep.
There's obviously a sense of relief. Did you feel good about, I feel like we've landed in a good spot, like we came out of that portal combat and the combat of MLB, in pretty good shape?
No. Like every coach, I wish we had one more power pitcher. I think every coach will tell you that. I wish we had one more of this, that, or the other thing. So I'm not going into it saying, hey, we're set. Now it's just, of course we went after the who's who, and we had some who's who guys here and decided not to offer them because they just weren't a culture fit. And that was, a little bit of a risky decision, but, we're not going to win personally, philosophically, we're not going to win a bidding war and potentially lose the locker room. So there's a dynamic with all of that as well. We got to get the best players we can possibly get out of the portal, but that also fit the team dynamic here and building something a little bit bigger than just individual accolades.
Coach, you talked about recently, we're not going to talk about Omaha this year, we're going to be about it. What does be about it? What does that mean on a day-to-day?
It means we'll talk about it when we get there, right? It's on the hats. It's a forever and ever Clemson baseball from the 90s to the early 2000s. You could not talk about the top of college baseball without mentioning Clemson. Clemson was, if you played on the team from, the mid-90s to 2010, in a 4-year cycle, everybody went to Omaha during that stretch, right? And now it's been an equal amount of years since then has passed and nobody's been. So it's enough talk. We've missed it enough years in a row that, hey, let's just do what it takes from a preparation and execution and a staying healthy standpoint to just be about it, and it'll take care of itself. We've got as good a shot as anyone else in the country to getting there. It's all going to determine by who gets hot at the end, and we want to be one of those teams like everybody else, but we're done talking about this, that, and the other thing related to Omaha until we're actually standing at a podium in Omaha.
I guess you talked about you still want one more pitching arm, but you talked about explosive athletes at bat too. How much better do you feel about the explosiveness of your hitters, I guess?
Yeah, so explosiveness comes in all shapes and sizes. You could have 6'8" Caden Grice, you could have 5'9" Cooper Ingle, and they're explosive in different ways, right? And so I think for us, it's just finding guys that have that lightning bolt in their body that can access that ground force and transfer it into whatever they're hitting or throwing. And we feel really good about what we've seen in terms of testing it, measuring it, because we have force plates, and that's part of the Maven lab. They use a Newt force mound for pitchers and swing catalyst force plates for hitters. So now we can actually objectively look at it and see who's capturing the most ground force and transferring it into, their swing or pitch. And that's been a huge part of what we do with Rick Franzblau and Director of Sport Performance, of incorporating Maven with his strength program, with our baseball things that we, track and measure. So everybody, regardless whether it's, John Blau coming in baseline or Brian Hennessy or David Hood, it doesn't matter. Everybody's improving it because everyone has a starting point.
You guys really enjoyed playing the Bananas last year. What's the excitement like for Thursday?
I think pretty excited. We haven't talked about it. Tomorrow will be the first time that we actually are going to practice trick plays or do our rehearsal with them. We'll have a rehearsal practice with the Bananas tomorrow, Wednesday. But we, last year leading up to it, I think we dedicated quite a few training sessions to banana ball games and rules, and we just haven't done that this year. I think this year we're more interested in playing a more competitive game with the Bananas because they're good. I mean, they're good baseball players and good entertainers, but they're good baseball players. So we'll have our hands full, that's for sure, because they are very explosive and athletic dudes that that they're just really good at mastering that banana ball game, but they're really good at playing the game of baseball too. So the excitement is very high. Last year, we had the viral moment with the 3-2-2 dance with the 50 million views and the backflip. So I think that's an exciting factor in itself to put the spotlight on our student athletes and our players and help, get them attention and interest, and whether that turns into monetization through affiliate marketing deals or whatever. I'm always going to max out and push the envelope on trying to help our players capitalize on any financial opportunities that they can get. And so this is not a better way to do that than putting the national spotlight on them in October, where you can start to see their personalities. And in the world of commercially driven NIL, it could be a great opportunity for some of those guys to capitalize on that. And that's a win in itself, in addition to trying to win the game.
Do you think it's a positive starting the fall scrimmage season in a fun way like this by scrimmaging the Bananas?
I think anyone who can play the Bananas at any time it's a positive, because it's going to be a regional, super regional postseason atmosphere, and it's total chaos. There's stuff going on every second of those 2 hours. And if you can get comfortable in that environment, or even just learn to deal with being uncomfortable in that environment, that's certainly something we'll look back on and say, hopefully this can help us down the road when we get to those types of environments, whether it's against South Carolina or a conference play or the postseason.
Erik, Graham was in here a few months ago and said about the visitors' bullpen that you guys were going to make some tweaks against. First of all, what do you think of West Virginia's coach kind of pushing back against that setup, and what have you and Graham kind of talked about with any changes?
I think we are hovering over the target when so many opposing coaches bitch about it. I think that's great. I think we got something. We're right over the sweet spot. So do we need to extend the drink rail? Yeah, maybe. But are we hovering over the target that we've created a competitive environment that is hostile and gives us an advantage? Hell yes, and I'm all for it.
How's the process going to replace Canarella in center field?
I don't know if you'll ever replace Canarella. He's a generational type of defender and center and clutch hitter, and just has that it factor. So, it's like you try to, like that Moneyball scene where you try to replace him in the aggregate of maybe with a combination of the efforts of a few players. So bringing in a couple of outfielders and, getting everybody a year better, and with the transfers that are in, the high school players that are in, all of the returning players that are a year better. You hope in the terms of the lineup 1 through 9 and being a run-scoring offense, you hope to improve upon our offensive production last year. But, Cam was a big part of that run production, but he was also a huge part of the defensive runs saved. I mean, he saved our butts a lot of times in center field. And I don't know if we'll ever see a guy like that again. That's just he's major league ready defense center field Gold Glove type guy now. And it's so impressive. But it's the best defensive center fielder I've seen in college baseball in 25 years. So if we can replace that, I'll be bumping my fist, but not expecting it.
You got an update on some of the guys that were injured, like Dane Moeller, and kind of where these guys are at in the process of getting back?
Yeah, they're all following a strict rehab protocol. None of them have pitched this fall. None of them will pitch this fall. Even Aiden Canuck told you he's not pitching this fall. That's by design as well. So we have a lot of our guys not really pitching, and the ones that were significant contributors last year or projected to be significant contributors, they will only pitch a max of 1 inning. You'll only see Talon Bell and Drew Titsworth and really anyone is only going to pitch 1 inning, just because we're not putting the target on stats and evaluation of determining those roles in October. It's about measuring that development that we've talked about, and we're going to retest. I'm more excited. I'm just as excited to retest on Maven next week and see how they've improved over a month's time. And that's a big difference. Some programs have these labs, but it's like a recruiting ploy. It's like hey, we have this shiny thing, but we don't use it. Like, we actually use it all the time and use it as a huge development tool for our players and actually know how to use it and know what it means. So very fortunate, Tyler Krieger, Sean McLaughlin at Maven Sports, they have really built something special. And it is an incredible tool, a measurement and development tool for all athletes, which is in Atlanta, obviously, but to have it here and have that hardware and software here is big. So if we're testing you, if we're measuring you, if you're a pitcher, you'll get on the mound, and we have Qualisys cameras, and there's like 16 cameras that are those high-speed 3D motion capture cameras, so it does skeletal models. And then you're on a Newt force mound, so it's got all your force production. If you're a hitter, you're hitting on Qualisys force or swing catalyst force plates with the Qualisys cameras. So it is able to take what you're doing if you throw 12 pitches or take 12 swings, and they can analyze with their algorithms and software and have a full report and score it on all the things that they measure based on what the best in the world do, because they have, I don't know how many thousands of data points of major league players, so they're able to measure against what's the best of the very best, but also track progress among college players or high school players or anyone who uses them. It's really cool.
Yeah.
And if you're into that, if you like to nerd out with it like we do, it's even better.
Talking about the bidding wars, have you seen any advantage yet from the 34 full scholarships? And then also, how much though is the separator, the commercial NIL, and do you feel like you guys are set up well there from what you've seen thus far?
Yeah, I feel really appreciative that Graham and President Clements and the administration has fully supported baseball. There's plenty of schools in our conference and even in the SEC that aren't at 34 full scholarships. So just to have that as, now we can recruit players and say, hey, yesterday, meaning yesteryear, playing college baseball was synonymous with student loan debt. And if you wanted to play a college baseball, you had to take out loans. And now they don't have to do that anymore. And just to have that as a baseline, and just as the floor has been raised tremendously, and now in today's world of collegiate athletics, you establish yourself, and the world is yours. It's just we have guys that are starting their own apparel companies, or looking at affiliate marketing deals, or just finding ways to earn money on top of a scholarship, and it's finally allowed for these guys. And they all know that the real money is in getting to the big leagues and staying in the big leagues, and so it doesn't take away from their training and their preparation, but just the fact that that's an option now for them, and it never has been before, is huge, and it's allowed us to go after the best of the very best in the entire nation.
Why was it such a thing, though? You lose the bidding war, you might lose the locker room. How difficult as a coach is it to make that decision when you know you can have a great player?
Personally, for me, and this may be right, wrong, or indifferent, but I just refuse to give a new player more money who hasn't poured 1 ounce of blood, sweat, or tears into the program, hasn't played 1 pitch of Clemson baseball, and is demanding more than anyone else on the team. We'll say adios to that dude every time. We're just not going to do that, because the culture and the locker room and having the current players know and believe and trust that we're going to take care of them first, and we'll do what we have to do to get good players in here too, but we're not meeting the demands to win a bidding war like other teams are doing. We're just not going to do it.
As far as Tyler Corbett, what do you remember when you actually heard of his diagnosis, and kind of what was kind of your immediate reaction?
Tyler's a man's man. He's one of the toughest kids I've ever coached. He had an injury late in season his senior year. He had an ankle, and he had just, kind of one thing after the next, because the year before he was one of the dudes who, double-digit homers and a mainstay in the order, and he had all these little things that just kept popping up. But I just remember he never once ever showed frustration or a sour attitude about it. He kept a positive attitude. He was an unbelievable teammate. He was a relentless worker. And he, in fact, with guys like Cam Canarella and Jack Crichton, some of these younger guys that were freshmen on the team then, he put his arm around them and just kind of showed them the way. And I will always remember Tyler Corbett as just being an incredible teammate, incredibly tough, battled some injuries with a smile on his face. And it certainly seems like there's a version of that approach that he's taken with something very, very serious. So I know he's in good spirits. I heard he even played golf the other day, and might have even shot a 41. I'll have to confirm that, but I think he's doing everything in his power to not let this keep him down, even though it's really, really tough, and he's probably in a lot of pain. But this is where the Clemson community can get behind him, and I'm very appreciative that everyone that signed up for a foursome for the golf fundraiser, we sold out of all the 36 foursomes, so that's great. We're still taking donations for him on behalf of him. 100% of the money will go to him to help him because he's in it for the long haul. But he is a one-of-a-kind kind of kid.
You guys added amenities this past season. I guess are there any more future ones coming to DKS this
Say
season?
that again? We added a what?
Different amenities like the visitor bullpen, the beer garden, the turf on the outside foul line. I'm just curious if there are any more things like that coming down the line.
How much time do you guys have? Because I got lots of ideas. I mean, lots of ideas. We just, probably tens of millions of dollars short from executing these. But I think of kind of that post I did when talking about FanFest. You take a page out of the Savannah Bananas book and a page out of the Atlanta Braves book. The Savannah Bananas have created this fans first entertainment thing where if you're buying a ticket, a season ticket holder or buying a single game ticket, yes, the baseball's entertaining. Yes, we want to win all the games. Yes, all that. But we want to have an attraction. We want to have something else happening at our games, whether it's better quality food or things to do or special events connected to our games that is just as much of an attraction as it is the baseball itself. And then looking at what Truist Park is and what the Battery is at the Braves Stadium and how they have totally transformed that area around the Braves Stadium, it's just as much fun to be outside the stadium as it is in, even if not more fun. And they've got restaurants, and they've got nightlife, and they got atmosphere, and they got a turf field, and they got jumbotrons, and they got all kinds of stuff. And so we have a perfect spot behind the right field fence to utilize that turf area and that space between baseball and softball. And it could be a space, in my opinion, that's you're able to activate 9 to 10 months out of the year because people park out in Jervey Meadows for football games and basketball games and everything else. And so being able to host events or do things out there to make that an entertainment type section for the fans, I think that's smart and I think that's doable. So we will be, we've got a FanFest type event coming this Saturday with inflatables and food trucks. But yeah, don't be surprised if there's more of that and things like that where we can target those 5 Saturdays of ACC play and really look at, all right, how can we create something even more than just baseball that would be attractive to attend? Because ultimately, yeah, we're happy about getting 6,800 fans, but we're not satisfied with that. We want to be one of the 5 schools in the nation that averages over 10,000 fans a game. And then why can't we be one of those schools that has, competes to be number 1 in attendance instead of top 10 in attendance? So ultimately, we got to do our part between the white lines, and we know that. But in the meantime, let's create something awesome for the fans.
How's your 2026 schedule coming together? About done, or?
It is done, yeah. Talk to the head man about that one. Week or two, yeah. But yeah, opening up with Army, and couldn't think of a better way to, to have a home opener, military appreciation, recognize those guys, but also all the veterans, and so that'll be a special one for sure.
Will the neutral site with South Carolina be in Columbia this year, as usual?
I believe so, yeah.
There was talk about a decade ago maybe of kind of mixing up where that neutral site game is. You have the home in Columbia, home in Clemson, and then maybe something different in the
Yeah.
middle. Have you thought about that, or what do you think about that?
Yeah, we talk about it it seems like it's a topic of discussion all the time. You know, when I was here the first time, we played them 4 times, and 2 there, 2 here, and or something like that. But I think we've settled in. It's, you know, having that neutral site game is a good financial opportunity for both schools as well. So I don't know if we'll move from that, but I know who we're playing week 3 of every year. I never have to fill that on the schedule.
Just another roster management thing. Have you guys designated any athletes like grandfathered, any type of walk-ons, or is it just 34 straight, or kind of where are you guys?
Yeah, I love the designation rule. I think that was a really smart addition by Judge Wilkin to grandfather in some of these student athletes. So we designated as many as we could so we don't have to cut anyone. And so we have 46 guys on our roster right now, and we do not have to, on December 1st, say, you're no longer a part of Clemson baseball. I just think that would be really crappy. So to have enough guys designated and them have that protection and not go into the fall thinking they got to do this and do that to earn a roster spot, and they can actually put the target on development. And that was another big reason to put the target on development and not on stats, because we don't want players worried about getting cut on December 1st. And that's probably happening at a lot of places.
Anything else for Coach? All right, thank you, Coach.
All right, thanks, guys.